Hey everybody, it's Megan Barnhard. I'm coming at you live from my Facebook page at Megan Barnhard Writing, or maybe you're watching on my YouTube channel, Write with Megan. Either way, I hope you are having good writing this week. I'm coming at you to talk about outlining and pantsers. This especially is going out to you. So if you're a diehard pantser and you would rather do anything besides outline, I hope you will be encouraged to do just a wee little bit of outlining after listening to this video today. So what I'm going to be talking about is how to embrace outlining and cut your writing time in half, even if you are a die-hard pantser. If you're not a pantser, if you are a plotter, or if you're somewhere in between, this will still give you some great tips about saving you time. Basically, my whole approach to outlining is do enough of it so that you don't get stuck, but don't do so much of it so that it eats up all of your time. So that approach I feel is for all writers, whatever genre you're writing. Hey Sarah, I'm glad you made it. If you have questions as I am talking about this topic, please do put them in the comments and I will do my best to respond to them live. And if I miss them live for any reason, I will definitely come back and reply to you once I go off air. If you don't know me, I'm Megan Barnhard. I'm a writing coach for conscious creatives and inspired entrepreneurs who want to make an impact with their words. Even if you do know me, that's still who I am. And I love helping writers figure out their writing process. So that's a big part of why I look at outlining a lot and how I approach outlining. Hello, Miss Lori. Ooh. So how can you embrace outlining even if it hasn't felt like your go-to tool, even if it isn't what you really love to do? I'm going to walk you through 3 big picture steps for how to do this. And this is going to be like how to shift your thinking and then also how to start applying some practical tools to outlining. Okay, the first thing you need to do if you want to embrace outlining and cut your writing time in half is accept the fact that you're going to use a story structure that already exists. And I want to invite you to think about writing your novel as like transporting your readers somehow. And there are lots of ways you can transport people, right? You could use a plane or a train or a boat, okay? So you want them to get to a certain destination and you want them to have a certain experience. Like taking a train is very different from getting on a plane, getting on a boat. So that's your job. Now, planes, trains, and boats already exist. So you as the author just like, what's the right vehicle for the story I'm telling? Hey, Rachel. And you might be like, but no, my story is completely unique. And so I want to take this like transportation idea and extend it into like a bigger image so you can really see what disadvantage you put yourself out at if you say, no, I don't want to use a plane or a train or a boat. I'm going to plan something completely new. Anybody out there a Top Gear fan? I haven't seen the new version, but the British version is something that I love to watch. I love to watch the reruns. So there are these episodes where the 3 car enthusiasts decide they're going to build amphibious vehicles because what they love to do is tinker with cars and do wacky stuff and get into trouble, right? And they build amphibious vehicles and then they try to cross the English Channel. Now they spend most of their time sinking, fighting with one another, and staving off the Coast Guard who's telling them to get the heck out of the middle of a shipping lane. And their goal isn't to cross the English Channel. Their goal is to have fun inventing new things. Can you see where this is going? If your goal is to have fun inventing a new kind of story structure, rock on, go for it. You can totally do that. But if your goal is to tell a story, if your goal is to transport your reader from from the starting point to the end and give your reader an experience, then if you're trying to also invent a kind of storytelling, you're splitting your energy and you're doing at least twice as much work. Hey Lloyd, good to see you. So If you accept, I'm going to use a story structure that already exists, it means what you get to do is focus on telling a story, on taking your readers on a journey, instead of inventing a new kind of vehicle to transport them. Oh, hey, Carrie, it's so good to see you. So that's the first thing you can do, is just make peace with the fact that you're going to use an existing story structure. Your story will still be unique. It will still be fantastic, but you don't have to spend the time and energy inventing a new vehicle. All right, so once you've embraced that, once you've accepted, I'm going to use a story structure that already exists, the second thing you do so that you cut your writing time in half is to choose which structure you're going to use. And for that, you want to think about what genre you're writing and what's appropriate to your genre, and then think, ooh, maybe I'll use a whole existing story structure for my genre. Like there's a romance story structure that works and I'm just going to use it. Or maybe you'll use 90% of that and then put your own little tweak, right? You're not inventing something completely new. You're taking something that you know works and you're saying, ooh, but then what if instead of when they go out to dinner, that expected thing happening, something else happens. So you can choose a structure just purely based on your genre. And you can also think about the kind of classic ways that we tell stories, things like the hero's journey or quest storytelling or circle storytelling, where characters kind of come back to the place where they started. There are a lot of different techniques for telling stories. And I definitely encourage you, get on YouTube and just type in different storytelling structures, and you're going to find a whole list to choose among. And it might completely expand your thinking about your options. Instead of feeling like there is a limited range that you can choose among, you're going to see there are so many different existing story structures. And of course, the advantage to each one is that it's already been created. You don't have to create it. It's already been tested and it works. So that's a really good place to write from. Does that sound like something that would save you time? I'm curious to hear from you guys. If you just select a structure that already works, does that sound like, ooh, nice, I get to spend my time on being creative instead of on inventing the structure? To me, that's really relieving. And if you are not sure what kind of story structure to use, you can always just start with a basic plot hill. And that's, there's an inciting incident, like what's different about today from every other day, and then rising action toward a climax and falling action toward a resolution. So you can always just do the basics if having more options feels less inspiring to you. For some of us, more options mean more freedom and therefore like it feels better and more creativity. For some of us, more options means like analysis paralysis. Like, oh no, you gave me too many things to choose among. Just give me one. There's one. Just do the classic plot hill. The classic plot hill, because it helps you see all the elements of any kind of story, is one that I love to introduce authors to. It's something that you might have like gotten some background on in middle school or high school, but sometimes as authors, we forget all of those tools that, we were supposed to learn as teenagers. So having like a reintroduction to what the plot hill is can just be such a great inspiration. It'll just spark your thinking. In the recipe for outlining book, which you guys is coming out tomorrow. I'm super excited. It's coming out June 29th. I actually take you through like a whole tour of what is that plot hill thing again, and what is the character arc, and how do those two work together to create a plot, and what's your central conflict in that whole deal. So if you want kind of just a background and a really clear explanation of what are the steps of a classic plot, that's a great place to begin. And then of course you can take it and refine it to your genre or to the style of storytelling that you want. Hey Melissa, so good to see you. So now let me move on to the third thing you need to do to embrace outlining and cut your writing time in half. And that is to plan your anchor scenes. So picture a river, like a raging river, something you go rafting on. You're standing on one bank. Your process of writing a novel is the process of crossing this raging river and getting to the other side. I was talking before about these crazy guys crossing the English Channel and talking about how you're transporting your reader. But now I want you to think about your process, like you moving through the activity of drafting a novel, which is not an easy thing to do. So your process is really hard if it's just you and the river. And the thing that makes it so much easier and that cuts your writing time significantly is if you have some big boulders that you can drop into that river, right? If you can drop some big boulders into the river, it's going to do two things. It's going to slow down that raging torrent a little bit. It's like things won't seem quite so overwhelming. And it's also going to give you some platforms that you can jump between as you cross the river in your writing process. So a huge part of effective outlining is creating these anchor scenes, right? These boulders, these like, okay, I know that's there, and I know that's there, and I know that's there. And I've got good news for you, pantsers. This does not mean mapping out every teeny tiny detail of your story. It simply means giving yourself, 7 to 10 key scenes you're going to get to. And these are the same key scenes that are in like thinking about plot hill, that are thinking about plot structure. You can add in more that are for your particular genre. I'm writing a sci-fi, and so I know it's got to have this key scene, or I'm writing a romance, so it's got to have this scene, or I'm writing a mystery, so I know it's got to have that scene. And when you set these up ahead of time, you know where you're going. And then as you're in the process of writing, you're like, okay, I know the next scene I'm trying to get to. So, Sarah asked what I mean by pantsers and plotters. Oh, good question. I will get to that in 1 second. So there's a lot of metaphor here, so let me make sure I'm being clear and concrete. I'm talking about creating for yourself just 7 to 10, not a gajillion, not every single one, but just 7 to 10 key scenes that you're going to include in your story. These will be things like the inciting incident, the moment when your character is drawn into the conflict. These will be things like your climax, the most exciting, dangerous part where there's some key decision your character has to make. Things like the final scene, right? So all you're doing is setting up ahead of time a few scenes that you're going to get to. And what that does for you is always give you some new destination you can get to. And if you can see that other destination, you can get to it because you can get help from your writing buddies or a writing coach, or you can brainstorm, you can talk to yourself, you can talk to your characters, you can talk to your cat and say, okay, I got to problem solve. My characters are here, they need to get here. How could that happen? And then what you're doing is problem solving instead of waiting for inspiration or hoping that your story is going somewhere. It's going somewhere. You just have to figure out how to get there. Yes, Lori is answering your question, Sarah. Pantser is someone who writes with no plan at all, and the term comes from flying by the seat of your pants. So are you somebody who likes to have a map and a navigation system telling you where to go, or are you somebody who just likes to do it as the inspiration hits you? And here's why I am claiming that this kind of outlining still works for those of you who like to fly by the seat of your pants. Because what I've just asked you to do is think about putting a few key anchor scenes in your story. But your story is going to have way more than 7 to 10 scenes, right? There's going to be so much more that's going on. And so if you are somebody who writes really well in that space of, I don't know what's going to happen next, and you feel really inspired, I love it. Do that. And you're going to get that inspiration as you're going from, anchor scene 1 to anchor scene 2, and there are, 6 chapters in the middle or, in between those two. You're going to be taking this big flying leap, and in the air, you're like, I have no idea what happens if this is so exhilarating. Ooh, what if this? What if that? What if that? There is still plenty of room for all of that exhilarating, flying by the seat of your pants feeling. The difference is there's a clear place to land. So you can still fly by the seat of your pants, but you're going somewhere. Does that make sense? Give me an emoji or give me a comment if that's making sense, that description of you can still totally do all of the fun, creative, inspired writing that you love to do as a pantser. It's just about giving yourself a landing point, and you know where to get there. Oh my gosh, Lori, yes, you know tons of stuff. And you know, some plotters plan out every detail and some don't. They just get the broad strokes. Guys, the secret of writing novels and the secret of outlining is that it's a really personal experience, and we all do it differently, and we all do it based on how we think. And I actually go into great detail about this in Recipe for Outlining, which if you're interested, you can get at meganbarnhard.com/book. And it's about encouraging you to find your thinking style. You know, how do you get your best ideas? I was just talking with a writer this morning on a clarity session, and she said, I know if I need ideas, I just go out and I walk. I get my voice recorder and I walk, and I completely relate to that. So within having this structure, there is so much room for you to use the process that works for you. And again, the 3 things I'm encouraging you to do to utilize all the benefits of outlining without getting locked into, you know, any kind of rigid structure are just accept that you're going to use a pre-existing story structure, then choose that story structure, and then create 7 to 10 anchor scenes that go along with that story structure. I'm saying 7 to 10 because there are 7 points that kind of all plots need, but then if you're writing a genre that has really specific requirements, there are going to be more. And that's just a matter of looking up your genre and being really clear on what genre you're writing in the first place. So if you're interested in getting all the lowdown about finding what kind of outlining style works for you, how to create your anchor scenes, what scenes those should be, how to get ideas, how to go into more detail if you want, if you're somebody who likes to plan with more detail. All of that is in the book, Recipe for Outlining. Again, it's at meganbarnhard.com/book. And it comes out tomorrow. It is such a labor of love. I'm so excited to share this with you. It's the culmination of 2 years of working and developing these resources with real writers on the ground. And I've had just the most amazing writers who've been willing to be guinea pigs for me and use resources and tell me what's working and what they wish they had in addition. So I just am taking all these resources that I've been using with writers and refining them and including instructions and some stories that help you see how people use these in a concrete way. So it's more like on the ground feeling, you know, what does that really look like, and giving you examples. And that's all in the book. And it's meganbarnhard.com/book. Sarah, I will put a link in the chat once I finish. If you wanted to ask me questions about outlining, about these 3 components of outlining, I really do invite you to put them in the comments and I will come back and respond. And let's see. Thank you, Lori. Yes, it is. It's a short one. It's meant for you to just like read it and then use it. This is not going back into the whole history and the theory of storytelling, and it's really meant to just be on the ground practical help to take you through step by step how you can outline a novel. So I'm hoping you all find it useful. But yeah, Lori, thanks for reporting back on that. All right, everybody. I will respond to any additional questions you put in the comments once I end. I'll put the link in, and thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day and happy writing. Take care.